indicate I'm looking at the attachments that are on the web, but as I understand form part of the proceedings, the financial statement for the Adelaide Festival Centre Trust, in which it identifies state government grants at page 8 of 20 for 2021 being at 15.496 million, 2022 being 25.881 million. I understand that that may well include some additional supplementary funding that was provided as a result of the pandemic. And I'm just wondering if the Minister can identify what portion of that 2022 operating base grant is the standard operating base grant, and are there any other grants that make up that figure of 25.8 million?
I can take some of that on notice, but I can indicate to the member that out of that 25, I think, what was that? Sorry, member, 25. $7.7 million was given to the AFCT to replace lost revenue during the closure of the AFCT. $2.8 million was given as part of a business disruption insurance claim with SAFA. They're the main two, so that would come off that. And the base operating grant, I don't have a figure for on hand, but I will. If you give me 1 minute. We may have that. Take that question on notice.
Thank you. I understand that Mr Woolhouse wrote to the Chair of the Festival Centre Trust Board identifying a figure of $18.1 million in last year's budget, but that certainly sounds like it includes the $2.8 million that you referred to before. So I note that there is $14.5 million this financial year. Has the Minister, during the relevant time in the 21-22 financial year, did she have any meetings with representatives of either the board or staff at the Festival Centre Trust indicating a reduced requirement for government funding, or indeed were there suggestions and requests from the organisation for increased funding, especially in its 50th anniversary year coming up?
Time period from the March election till 30 June, I did have meetings, but not that I recall anything specific on the 50 years in that period of time. Subsequently, we've had discussions on what might be required for that.
So is the government proposing to provide funding in addition to the operating grant to celebrate those 50 years, or is the Festival Centre Trust expected to fund 50th year celebrations out of that operating grant?
We're working through that at the moment.
Can I ask the Minister, and I know she's taken on notice the breakdown of the operating base grant, if she is able to advise if there are any other grants programs that the Adelaide Festival Centre Trust is able to access under the new government. I note that on page 8 there is both the Her Majesty's redevelopment funding, which I assume is now completed, the AFC redevelopment supplementation, and also other SA government revenue. That's a more modest number. But are there other sources of income from the state government to the festival centre that are available under the new government?
In respect to 21-22, I'm not sure that that question's particularly relevant. Subsequently, we're obviously working with them on various funding, including, for example, AFCT has conversations with SATC if there's a program that's being brought over. So there's those conversations happening. There's funding for the plaza as well and activating that, which I think it's a $3 million figure last year, and that's ongoing activation program. Yes, they have ongoing funding for the plaza activation.
Has the Minister had any discussions with the Adelaide Festival Centre Trust about the impact of that efficiency dividend, which was announced obviously prior to the 30th of June, on staff or programs for the Festival Centre in an ongoing way?
I haven't specifically, but in terms of the previous savings, there's been conversations around that. The previous savings of the Marshall Liberal government, there have been conversations around that, but they're managing within their budget, and most of the conversations are happening at department level.
In question time, the Minister described those savings as 5%. Does she stand by that claim?
Don't relate, yes, as they don't relate, those 5% figures relate to the 21-22 financial year, but they're figures from your first budget.
Can I turn from page 8 of the financial report to page 8 of the Auditor General's overall report, again related to the Festival Centre Trust, where the Auditor General reflects on the decision of the previous South Australian Government to transfer the Festival Centre complex assets from DPC to the AFCT, and that asset transfer is expected to occur in this current financial year. I note that this reverses a transaction the other way from the 30th of June 2008. In fact, the Auditor General notes that again at the bottom of page 8 of his report. Can the Minister confirm, is that transfer proceeding, has or indeed may already have happened, and what the government's position is on that approach?
Yeah, the department's working through that transfer at the moment. It hasn't actually been lodged with the Lands Titles Office yet.
But to be clear, there's no change in policy or approach by the new government?
See on that.